One. I got 9 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I am not John Kite, so I am sorry to disappoint everyone who plugged in who thought they were going to get John Kite this morning. So you get actually John Kite Jr. We have a jam-packed call today. My goal is we have Barry Clarkson today at 10 o'clock. He's going to be going over what Sean Mike talked about last week. So if you plugged in the last week, I'm certain you do not want to miss this week's call. So we're going to try to be done at 9:50 so you guys can get to the bathroom, get some more coffee, send some text out to some clients. So today's call is just going to be awesome. Just a quick announcement. We're actually 19 days away from the start of conference in Orlando, 18 days till the managers have to show up. And I'm super excited. I'm probably going to have my guest today, talk about the importance of getting to the conference, especially for new people. And if you're a new person, this is the call for you today, 1,000%. So I hope you have that pen ready and that notebook. So they released the breakout rooms yesterday on social media. If you guys are not on social media, here are the breakout rooms, especially if you're a new person. Top producers Q&A. That's going to be a breakout room. Hitting your 5x5, so hitting 5 ICAs a week and 5,000 submit. Leads, that'll probably be with Kristen Brockman. Winning with women, that's going to be a great one. Integrity Connect, Retirement Solutions, Mutual of Omaha, Americo, Emeritus, Transamerica, and American Amicable. Those are some phenomenal breakout rooms, and I hope they don't have top producers, winning with women, and hitting your 5x5 all going on at the same time because there's going to be some jam-filled rooms right there down in Orlando, and I'm pretty sure those are ones that definitely hit in each session. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut up and bring my guest on. Let me see if I know he's on because I have seen him. Give me 1 second. There he is.
What's up, brother?
Hey, Mr. Gibbons, how are you doing today?
I am too blessed to be stressed, man. How are you?
I am doing great. The fall spring is hitting here in North Carolina, so we're having 80-degree weather today, so we are super pumped. So super excited about that.
Nice. Yeah, I know your dad texted me the other day asking if I could be on the call, and I jumped at it. I mean, I love giving back to the team, and I surprised that he trusted me to be on this call. I know I've spoken to his team before, but definitely it's definitely an honor.
Well, Matt, you and I are both shocked because he asked me to be your co-host, and I was like, that's a lot of faith that you're putting into me. So we're going to treat this, guys, like an episode of Cornerstone Conversations. If you have not, subscribed on YouTube, make sure you go subscribe. This will actually be released on Monday. I have to give a shout out, a quick commercial. So Matt is in my favorite place ever. He's down in Nocatee, Florida. So if you're driving from to Orlando, it's right in between St. Augustine and Jacksonville, right beside Ponte Vedra. So there's a phenomenal steakhouse over there. Matt, me and my wife still talk about it. We spent our 1 year anniversary over at the Chopped House in Nocatee, and we still talk about the key lime butter. So that's a little bit of background for Matt over in sunny Florida, down over in Nocatee. So great place. Got to have a golf cart to get around. So awesome, beautiful place down there.
Yeah, we love it. It's we moved here about 2 years ago, and oh yeah, we've been to that chop house, I think once or twice, but there's a couple other really nice steakhouses right in Jacksonville or South Jacks. There's one called it's inside of a bank, and it's the name of the steakhouse is leaving me, but it's inside of an old bank. Beautiful, really beautiful. Took a bunch of really cool pictures in there. They've got bookcases that are 20 feet high, which is just, you know, um, really cool to see. But yeah, guys, what I want to talk about today is being profitable, right? And I'm going to be running that breakout session, the 5 and 5 breakout. So I'd love to for you guys to show up for that at the conference. I'm going to have Mug Celine with me, Matthew Wilson, and then Nicole Hansen. So those guys, they had the most 5 and 5s in 2025. So we're going to be the ones that are going to be running that breakout. So excited to share. I probably won't talk a ton about what we're going to be discussing in the breakout, but today I really want to give you guys like three takeaways. All right. So if you're taking notes, the number one takeaway is a simple profitability formula for you or your new agents, right? How to scale lead flow without going broke, right? Because sometimes we get in our heads thinking that we need to buy thousands of dollars of leads all at one time, when really you need to set up a standing lead order or set up an automate and save or buy leads, in batches. Okay. You don't have to buy them all at one time throughout the week. That's something that I talk to my agents about. And then how to recruit while still producing without losing production. I know your dad, they had to drag him out of the field, right? Like he was doing five, like that was when we were doing the conference calls. And I remember back in 2019, when I got started, 2020, 2021, I can't remember when your dad got out of the field, but um, I remember every single week he was getting announced with over 5,000. Now you've got to do 7,500. But
Mhm.
just a little scoreboard, guys. Like I've been in this business about 7 years, and 2019 was my first 10 months in this business. I was able to make 130,000 of income. And back then, we had to go like we didn't have the promotion guidelines we have now where you can go from a 70 to a 105. Back then, you went from a 70, 2 months later, you went to a 75. 2 months later, you went to an 80, then an 85. And I know some of you guys on here probably were here. I see Claudia on here. I saw her join. I know she was here um, back then, and it was a lot harder to earn your contract increases. Now it's in my opinion, it's a no brainer to go and do 20,000 in a month of paid business, so that way you can earn that 105 contract. I mean, it's there, and I don't know how long it's going to be there for. I'm not saying Equis is going to take it away, but put a plan together with your manager to figure out how to get to that level. Um, the other thing that I was able to accomplish my first 10 months, guys, was I had 54 contracted agents. Now it's not ICAs, but we contracted 54 people on my team, and we had 10 first-time writers back in 2019. And so the reason I tell you that is I saw the value of building a business like from day one, right? I started investing in my business with, like, back then it was ZipRecruiter. And I remember setting up 10 ads, and I was getting interviews every single day. And back then it was all face to face, right? And so what I would do, my schedule now is a little bit different. I'll cover that here in a little bit later. But what I used to do is I used to book my appointments every 2 hours. And then every hour and a half, I would have an interview. So I would be on the phone. Back then, I think I had like a Blue Parrot, headset, and I would be driving on the way to the next appointment, you know, doing an interview, right? And so back then I was probably doing 5 and 5. I just wasn't tracking it. You know what I mean? And my goal back then was to I hit sales manager pretty quickly. And then my goal back then was to hit district manager. We had that level in between sales manager and RM district manager. So, but yeah, come up with some sort of goal with you and with your manager. Um, and I don't know if anybody was on our boot camp that we did a couple weeks ago, the Theodore group. We did a boot camp and we televised it to all of Equis, but we really broke down the numbers of, you should have a 65% show rate, John. You should have a 40% close rate. You should have a um, minimum 65 placement. In our group, we're at about 76. So we really, for our base shops, we really strive for that 75% placement, just because of all the simplified issue business out there, America, Mutual of Omaha. And so when you know what your numbers are and you're tracking everything, it just makes you feel a little bit better, right? It just brings that anxiety down, because if you don't track your numbers, like appointments kept, closing percentage, average premium, case size, whatever you're spending on leads, like our brain, guys, our brain lies to us sometimes, like we think we're doing worse than we actually are. That's why I always tell my new agents to track their dials. How many dials are you making, right? How many times are you hitting that green button on your phone, or if you're using a CRM, how many times are you dialing a number, right? Mark that down. How many contacts have you made, right? Because then that determines what your contact percentage is. And then how many appointments have you booked? Because if you dial like 100 leads in a day and you've got like maybe 3 appointments, and you might feel discouraged, but maybe you were calling like 50-cent leads or dollar leads or $2 leads, right? And those booking percentages are a lot lower than an A lead or a diamond lead or a gold lead, right? So it really helps to empower you while you're dialing if you track everything, and then you track your business for the week. And I know, I get it. I've been doing this a while, guys, and I've been telling my agents, track your stuff. It's an extra step, but if you're not willing to track your business, then how are you going to get to your next promotion, right? Because you don't know what your numbers are, and you don't know how to train other people to track their numbers, right? And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, John, is your lead investment. So some things that I talk with my agents about is really focusing on setting up and automate and save within the first 30 days. And that really helps you get to where you can get your contract up. I'm not sure how you guys talk about, A leads, but for us, we want our agents to be profitable. So we want our agents to be at a certain contract level before they start investing in A leads. Okay. And check with John or check with your manager. Obviously, I don't want to discredit anything that you guys have gone over, but in order for you to and be willing to invest in an A lead, like you have to understand that every A lead that you buy is not going to be a sale, right? Sometimes you're like, man, I just spent like $50 on this lead, and they told me to go fly a kite, right? I mean, that happens. But when you look at it as a batch of leads, guys, and sometimes I'm probably preaching to the choir for some people on here, but for new folks, when you look at a batch of leads, you have to look at it as, okay, that batch of leads is an investment into my business. Not every one of those leads is going to say, yeah, Matt, I'll take option B, $89.92, right? Not everyone's going to do that, but about 30 to 40% of those will. If you're tracking your booking ratio, you're tracking your close ratio, you're tracking your placement, understanding how many leads you need to invest in order to get a certain profit, right? It all goes back to knowing your numbers, right? And then another thing with lead investment that I wanted to tell you guys or talk about is it removes decision fatigue, right? When I got started in this business, we had a system called Opt, and we could put an order in for every different type of lead. And so I didn't have to think every week, like what, if I really felt like buying leads. Some days I didn't feel like buying leads, but they showed up in my email, and I had to work them, right? And so you invest in leads weekly and not when you feel like it, right? And then obviously that helps to stabilize your activity. It creates cash flow and confidence. So it does a lot of things, really for your mindset. Okay. Um, and then the last thing, and then if you have any questions for me, John, the last thing is really scaling your business while producing. So recruiting, having some sort of recruiting system, because I bet everybody on here invests in leads, right? Some of you guys might be really good at getting referrals, but everybody on here, I'm assuming, probably invests in leads. And so if you're trying to get to a sales manager role, Yeah, you can invest in social media, you can do warm market, but that's only going to get you so far. You have to be willing to invest in some sort of platform, in my opinion, and that would be, you know, either LinkedIn or some sort of calling licensed agents, or there's Wise Hire out there. There's a lot of recruiting platforms that you can invest in, and really tailor your schedule to like for me, I do appointments and interviews throughout the day. So I don't just do sales 3 days a week and then do interviews for two. I kind of weave it in and out. Everyone's schedule is a little bit different. That's just the way I do it. This week I have 9 applications submitted for 12,000, and I have 7 ICAs. So I'm really pushing myself to go for that, to get 5 and 5 leading up to conference, because I'm the one running the breakout. So, I would be a hypocrite if I didn't do that. Right. And so this week so with my 9 apps submitted, I booked 25 appointments. I think I got to look at my numbers, but I track my numbers pretty closely. I think I've sat on 18 appointments, and same thing with interviews. So I have 6 or 7 signed ICAs so far. And so I believe I've probably booked 18 interviews, sat on about 16 of those. I got a couple ICAs that are out there that are pending. And so it's just like getting the ICAs and building your pipeline, guys, is the same thing as getting your appointments, right? And then my goal every month is to have 5 brand new writers. So last month we actually hit that in our base shot. We had 5. This month we're a little behind schedule. We should have 1 or 2 pop out in the next couple of days. But it's always really tracking and understanding where my pipeline is with sales, right? But also with the building. Because if you're trying to get to, and I know this is a leader's call, if you're trying to hit sales manager or regional manager or VP, then you have to have, non-negotiables. You have to have standards that you live by. Okay. And so did you have any questions for me, John? Did you want to go back and forth?
Yeah, absolutely. And then if anyone has any questions and you want to get on the hot seat with Matt, put it in the chat and we'll bring you on as well. But Matt, let's tailor to the newer person. Um, so you were able to do face to face, and now you're able to do virtual. I think a lot of people are virtual. Some people are going back face to face. I know JK's doing face to face over the last couple weeks. What if someone wanted to hit 5,000 next week? What lead investment are you telling your new people to do for virtual sales?
Yeah, so to hit 5,000, it really goes back. We got to go back to for every 4.5 appointments booked, you're going to have 1 paid app. Okay, that's if you do 65% show rate, 40% close, and 65% placement, right? So if you guys are taking notes, 65% show, 40% close, 65% placement. And so if you do the math on that, you need 4.5 booked appointments to have 1 paid app, right? And so I'll just pull out my calculator here real quick. Um, so 4.5, so that would be 5,000. And again, this is like paid app, so not submitted.
Hmm.
Um, But if you figure out that you need 4.5 booked appointments to have 1 paid app, then obviously you guys can do the math there and figure out like what your placement is, how many appointments that you're going to actually need in order to hit that goal. Um, but I would say lead flow. Our agents work, especially new agents. They work leads that are under $10 a piece, right? And so whatever you see on Lead Center, and it could be ethos leads, it could be the incomplete IVRs that are $5. It could be the diamond. I think the diamond leads might be 11. It could be a
Hmm.
diamond, gold, silver, bronze, whatever's on there that's under $10. Because when you first get started in this business, new folks, you are not going to be good at this. Like my first 6 appointments, like I didn't make a sale. my seventh appointment, I finally wrote a Mutual of Omaha Child Whole Life app, right? I made like $50 on that deal. And actually, my manager helped sell it over the phone while I was sitting in the the living room with at the kitchen table with the family. And I ended up having to go back like three times to get signatures and initials. It was a mess to do that paper ad, but it taught me a lot, right? And I wasn't I was okay with looking stupid in front of somebody. I didn't care because I needed to make money, right? I
Mhm.
needed to get my family, like as JK says all the time, get my family on safe ground, which we were struggling at the time. And so like sometimes fear takes over us, right? And we think like, oh, I'm not going to be good at this. You're not, and that's okay. But you have to put the reps in, and so it's like I would buy old crusty leads. Like I was working like back then, I was working leads that were we called them D leads that were 50 cents. I was
Mhm.
calling those suckers, and I got really good at booking appointments, and I made tons of money off of that, and that's how I became really profitable my first year was just working really old leads. And then I think it was like within, I want to say 4 months or so, then I started I put an order in for A leads, and I started working those. Right. And I realized that I started getting good at this business. And I realized that, okay, if I can sit down with a certain amount of families, like now I do all virtual too, and 95% of my team does as well. So if we can book a certain amount of appointments in a week, then we know, yeah, you might have a bad week, but we know that you're not going to have a bad month if you stay consistent, right? And so yeah, that's what I would say as far as lead flow, is investing in leads to be profitable, right? And you have to know that it's just like it's just like in baseball. I don't follow baseball, but I know that somebody that hits the ball 3 or 4 times out of 10 is going to be an all-star or a Hall of Famer, right? And
Mhm.
so it's the same thing in our business. You have to be okay with hearing the word no. And another thing I'd say is like as far as leads, you want to make sure that you're profiting about 80%. So if you make a sale, a percentage of that money that you make on commission is not your money. It's your business's, right? So you take a small percentage of that, if it's 10, 15, 20%, and you put that back into your business. And right now, guys, our really only expense is like maybe E&O insurance, right? And leads, you
Mhm.
know? And so you're reinvesting that percentage back into your business every single week.
Matt, that you hit on it because we've had conversations with newer agents that want to feel like they have to know everything before they pick up the phone and start making dials. And you can't know everything. But you said you had to get your family on safe grounds. And because of how well the insurance business pay us, a lot of agents get that big deposit and they're like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna go to the mall now." Bring out the steak, not the ramen noodles anymore. But you have to
Yeah.
continue playing the game. You bring up baseball. I kind of think of it as like going to the casino. It's like you just don't know what the next deck of hand cards are going to be played to you. So it's always just a fun game to be able to go around. And so, speaking to the new agent, we'll transition to the building side. How do you kind of give them that confidence? What do you say to them to for them to get over that fear of being able to track your numbers, but not know how to know everything before they go sit on the appointment? They have to get really good at booking the appointment and then show up because a lot of times you can book an appointment. Some people are just really nice, Matt, and just say, yes, I'll book an appointment, but they don't show.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no. But how important is for them to track, gain that confidence? Because tracking your numbers tells the whole story right there with your manager. It's like, okay, you made 100 dials, but you only booked 5 appointments. What leads are you dialing? And maybe that will show, okay, maybe we need to work on your phone script. Maybe we need to work on your tie down. So what advice do you kind of give your new agents and to the new agents on this call?
Yeah, I mean, I think confidence comes with experience. And yeah, you're gonna, like I just mentioned, you have to be okay um with looking dumb. And it's okay. Like I don't know how you guys do it in your group, but we help our agents like their first couple weeks with underwriting. So they
Hmm.
fill out a needs analysis and they take a picture of that needs analysis and text it to me or whatever manager they if they're on a one of my managers teams, we do a group text. So whoever can get to it as fast as possible is the one that says, they text them back saying looking, so they know that they're looking at the needs analysis. So the confidence that they have knowing that we're there in their corner to like help them and say, hey, show them this product, quote these numbers, at least in their first like 10 appointments, that gives them the confidence to know that we're there to really help them because you know um, the thing about this business, guys, and for new agents out there is people don't care what you know. They care about how you make them feel, right? And so you're having a conversation with somebody that needs life insurance, that needs mortgage protection, that needs final expense, right? You're having a conversation with somebody that, like, you have the license, right? So you have the confidence there to, you know, more than likely, you know more than them about life insurance because you are licensed through the state, right? And so that's step number one is I'm kind of a big deal. I've got a license through the state and I'm going to help you protect your family because that's what you asked for. You sent a form in, you called in, whatever it was. You guys, these IVR leads, only 1 or 2% of the people pick up that card and call in. The other 98%, they throw them in the trash. So when
Hmm.
somebody says that they're not interested, who cares? They are interested. They called in. I had a guy yesterday, I was doing live dials, and we do our dial sessions every morning from 8 to 10. So today I'm not I wasn't able to get on, but on Thursdays I run the dial session, and I was running I think I booked 3 appointments live, and then I got a one call close, and so there was like 30 people on. They got to listen to me go through the presentation and live. And the guy in the beginning said, "Yeah, man, I got a bunch of those in the mail. I'm not interested." I can't remember what I said. I think I said, "Not interested in what?" And the guy was like, "Well, whatever you're trying to sell." I said, dude, I'm just here to help you. You got a card in the mail about loan protection and you called in, shows that you're 42 years young. Your loan amount is 150,000. I went through the whole script. I just overcame that objection. And I said, aren't you concerned that if you like get sick, can't work, that the house is either paid off or you can make the mortgage payments? He's like, well, I don't have any kids. I don't have a wife. I said, well, then it's a selfish policy. How about that? How about we get you some living benefits? And he was like, what is that? I got into the appointment and I sold him a policy and it got approved. And I'm
Hmm.
going to get paid on it probably on Monday, right? Because he was interested. He just put up a smoke screen saying, I'm not interested right now. I'm not interested because he didn't feel like talking to me. But he was off work yesterday and we got him covered, right? And so those are the things with new agents. They watch that when they watch me do an appointment, I say, listen, you're not going to have like I've been doing this 7 years and I've got probably like 1,700 clients. I've got a lot of clients. I've sold a lot of insurance. We've got probably over 8,000 clients in my agency. You're not going to be like when I watched Bill Martin when I first started, I realized that I wasn't going to be Bill Martin when I first went into my first appointment or my 10th appointment or even my 100th appointment. I just had to be me. I had to be Matt Gibbons. I had to be Casey Gregory, right? I had to be John King. I had to be me, right? My style was a little bit different than theirs. That's the confidence that I tell my agents is like, you got to have a laser focus at to like I'm helping this family, but realize that I'm going to be there to help pick the right product for you and understand that if you don't know the answer to the question, people kind of like that. People
Hmm.
kind of like when you are not a know-it-all, right? Because if you're a know-it-all, they think that you could be cocky, right? And so, hey, I've got a senior underwriter on call. It's easy to say this. I've got a senior underwriter on call. I'm just going to send them a quick text message or a quick message, and I'll be able to have that answer for you pretty shortly. And if they don't get back to me, I'll send you a text. But really, that's not the concern right now. The concern right now is if you die tomorrow, that your family either has mortgage payments to protect this equity, because you got a lot of equity in this house. If you die tomorrow, do you want that 100,000 of equity to go to the bank, or do you want it to go to your family? Right. And the analogy I always say to my agents, John, is like, just imagine, like, this is the training that I do. Just imagine you and your family is sitting on one side of a riverbank. And on the other side of the river is a check for 100,000, 200,000. That's the equity you have in your house. Just
Mhm.
imagine that. Just picture that. You and your family holding hands on one side of a riverbank. On the other side of the river is a check for a lot of money. How are we going to get that check? Most of the time, if you jump in, you're gonna be try to swim, and you might get taken away. Let's
Mhm.
create a bridge. So this bridge is this insurance policy. It might be 10,000, it might be 20,000, it might be 50,000. It's going to help make the mortgage payments so that way your family can walk across that bridge and pick up that check, because you're not going to be there holding their hand, right? You're gone,
Mhm.
right? You're not there to be able to answer that question. What should we do? You're creating a bridge today for your family so they can walk across that bridge and pick up that check for 100,000, 200,000 of equity, because more than likely they're going to have to sell the house. We want to maybe find something that can buy them time, right? And so when an agent knows the concept of critical period, because that's a lot of our sales. A lot of
Mhm.
our sales aren't to pay the whole mortgage off. A lot of our sales is, hey, let's get you a bucket of money to buy you time. When you understand the concept of critical period, man, you're unstoppable. When you can sell critical period to a customer, I'm telling you, you can make a lot of money in this business. That's where a lot of agents kind of like, they're like, oh, you want something to pay the whole loan off. No, you have to guide them down the path of, let's get you a bucket of money to help your family in the event of a death. So that's kind of, those are the things that I talk to my agents about when going through the process. And then we go over their goals. John, we find out, okay, if you're trying to make $1,000 a week or $1,000 a month or $5,000 a week, how many leads are you going to need to invest in? And more than likely, it's going to be 20% of whatever you're trying to make, right? So if you're trying
Mhm.
to make $100, or excuse me, $1,000, what's 20% of that? We need a couple $100 worth of leads in order for you to make a couple sales, and then take a small percentage of that money and invest it back into your business.
Right. Man, I love that analogy. And you were saying get the reps. It's like any new hobby that you do as a kid or now as an adult. You're never that good, but going through it is what helps you. Because like you said with the objection with the guy yesterday, how many new people do you think could have potentially have overcome that? They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I won't bother you. But you're right, the guy did need it. He called in for a reason. He got a bunch of them. Oh, I'm just calling in to get it to like stop. Like, buddy, if you wanted to stop, just start. Like you have a reason. So, and I love how you said that there. Matt, let's transition to the building side. So if I saw correctly on the Equus dashboard, you are vice president at Equus, correct?
Correct.
So I love that. And you don't have to tell us if you can if you want to. So we can figure out on the compensation grid. So your monthly bonus from Equus is anywhere between 5,000 a month to 12,500 on the 15th of every month. I mean, it's just reoccurring every month from Equus. So I want to talk about so having a bonus that rivals most W-2 salaries. I mean, that's just on top of the cake of what you do in personal production and in overrides. But talk about your schedule, because now having an organization where people are texting you, um, in-home questions, you're running your own appointments, you have your own family, you have interviews, doing it virtually. You don't have that buffer where if you have a 5 minute, conversation of in-home mortgage protection appointment, you might have to drive an hour. So you have some downtime where you can make some phone calls. So what's your schedule kind of like to be able to get to that VP level at Equus?
And I was at the regional manager level for like 4 years, and I finally broke through last year and hit VP. Um, and I celebrated for about about a day and a half, and then had to get back to work. I remember having a conversation with Barry a couple, maybe it was about 6 months ago, and just talking to him about like what do I need to do to how can I get to the next level, right? Because what I did to get to VP is not the same as what I'm going to have to do to get to senior vice president or keep getting a higher bonus. It's a little bit different. It's a different way of just communicating with my agents. I have, your dad says, wide as a baby's butt, right? All the time. I am super wide, but depth wise, I'm looking for more leaders, right? I'm always looking for more leadership. I invited Antoinette Carter on this call. She's one of my sales managers, and I think she's like the goal, guys, is you have to realize that this business, you're going to have a lot of people doing a little and a few people doing a lot, right? And so what that means is it's the 80-20 rule. And every agent that you bring on might not be a superstar, but I don't care. I don't need like the DeLong group, man, so proud of those guys, but it seems like every one of those people they bring on is a stud. I don't know where
Mhm.
they find those studs, but I'd like to know where they're shopping for their agents, but no, I'm just kidding.
Must
Um,
be something in the water in Georgia.
yeah, pretty much. So what I mean by that, guys, is like you just have to put in the numbers. It's just like the appointments. You have to put in people into the system. And yeah, we had I think 71 new agents that sold their first policy last year, and we contracted about 120. So there was 50 people that went through contracting, you know, got writing numbers
Hmm.
and sold nothing. So you have to be okay with like, and same thing. I track my numbers on the building side. Okay, how many ICAs did I send? Last year I sent 381. I kind of know this off the top of my head because I was just looking at the numbers the other day. 307 were signed. So I have an 80% sent to sign ratio, and I would like to get that up to 90. And then we had 120 of those 300 get contracted, so that's decent percentage. And then from those 120, 71 of those wrote their first app, right? And so I'm always looking at, okay, how can I get better? And really, what it comes down to is more bodies, because
Hmm.
Barry says it all the time. Each agent is going to average around 3 applications. It's like 2.8, 3.1. It always teeters around that number. And it's like, you know, it, in a business like this where you know that an agent, you might have one agent that goes out there and crushes it. Like I'm looking at, Casey Gregory was on here earlier. Like I've seen him on the top of the leaderboard many times, and he can
Hmm.
write 10, 15 apps in a week. But then you have some agents that are just doing this thing part-time, right? And so like for me, I have to meet people where they're at. I'm gonna challenge them and hold them accountable if they want to. But at the end of the day, they're a 1099 contractor. I
Right.
can't force them into doing something that they don't want. And I heard a football coach say something the other day. He talked about your dreams and your goals. And he says, if your habits don't line up with your dreams and goals, then change your dreams and goals
Hmm.
or change your habits. Don't lie to yourself. It's okay to lie to me. You can lie to me all you want. I don't care. You can lie to me all you want, but don't lie to yourself. So I thought that was super powerful, because sometimes people, their habits don't line up with what their dreams are, and then they get disappointed and they get frustrated. That's where most people are nowadays.
Matt, that's definitely spot on. I read something similar that you're the easiest person to lie to is to yourself. Like, oh, I can just do this another day. I can do this. And you really can't get too emotional about that because you're the only person who can go out and change it. And I love what you said there. That's a great quote. Hopefully we can snip that.
Oh,
Um,
I forgot to answer your question. So my schedule. Sorry,
okay. No
on
worries.
a tangent. So I do interviews typically. Like I have different blocks throughout the day. but I typically do interviews because I like to dial either in the morning or like late morning. So sometimes I'll dial like after the coaching call.
Hmm.
And so I typically do interviews from like 12 to 2. Sometimes I'll have a couple slots open in the afternoon time, but those afternoon slots are really geared towards like appointments, right? So I run a lot of appointments in the afternoon and evening. If I can get a one call close when I'm dialing, then I will, right? That's what I did yesterday. I got a one call close. So I wrote an app before 9 a.m. yesterday. And then I wrote an app. Let me look at my calendar. I wrote an app. I had an appointment last night. I had a 6, a 6:30, and a 7. And I wrote an app in my 6:30. And, so I went the whole day with, I wrote an app in the morning, wrote an app in the evening. And then I did, I'm looking at my schedule here. I did 5 interviews yesterday. The day before, on Wednesday, I did 5 interviews as well. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of my time slot is like midday to do interviews because I want to protect my appointment times.
So do you average about 5 interviews a day per se? Any days that are a little bit more? And are they licensed or unlicensed?
Yeah, most of them are through LinkedIn.
Okay.
We used to like text licensed agents. I haven't texted licensed agents in a while. Um, we do an email campaign for licensed agents. And that really hasn't been producing a ton of volume. So we're trying to switch things up a little bit on that. So a lot of my interviews are coming from LinkedIn. So
Okay.
I probably get I don't know if I'd say 5 a day, but some days are heavier than others. So I'd say
Okay.
at least 2 a day, two to 5 a day. Yeah.
Okay. Matt, with the unlicensed, because you get them excited, you get them into the system, and it's phenomenal what you said. You had so many people get contracted to come so far and to not continue to see it out. What are you doing to motivate those people to kind of get through to class? Are you plugging them to the coaching calls? How are you following up with them? Keep them
Yeah.
motivated because
Yeah.
that
So
that the Excel or Exam FX, man, that it's no joke.
yeah. Well, I set expectations when I'm doing the interview and I let them know before they get into Excel what's going to happen. I tell them that they're going to be reading and studying a bunch of boring stuff and that you're probably going to think about quitting a couple times. But you always have to go back to why you want to do this business. What's your dream? What's your goal? Right? And then we plug them into a group me. We have a group me for active agents, and then we have a separate group me for unlicensed agents. So it's just a messaging app. You can use Slack, whatever you guys use for messaging app, like if you guys use one of those. And we post the agent of the day in there every day. So we have an admin that goes and looks at our reports. Whoever wrote the most apps or premium that day, we post that. We also post in there the gold standard coaching call. So we want all agents to jump on that call and get plugged into our culture. We also send them the training calls because in the theater group, we have our own training website and we plug them into the dial sessions so they can actually watch people make live appointments. So it gets them excited to get through the course a lot quicker. And I just let them know that my fastest agent got through that course in 3 days. My slowest agent got through it in 2 months. You can do anything in between there, but the goal is to get through it. And it's 20 hours of studying. The goal is to get through it within a week. If you
Hmm.
can't get through it in a week, let's do a week and a half. And I want you to text me to let me know when you have your test scheduled. If I don't get a text message from you within 2 weeks, then I understand that you're behind schedule and maybe we need to get on another call. And it's okay to do like I've done like 2 minute calls with people, like just to motivate them again. Like, hey, what's going on in your life? I know 2 weeks ago when we got you into the study course, you were excited. What's going on? Right? Just give them like a little shot of adrenaline, a little boost because people need motivation. They need a little boost sometimes, right? They need a coach, right?
Hmm.
And so I think that's really helped us get a lot of unlicensed people into the license realm because it's all about engagement. And
Hmm.
of course it takes energy and it takes time, right? But I'm not going to spend all this money on recruiting and then spend all this time on interviewing people just so they can flop, right? I want them to go through the system. And sometimes you got to hold people's hand
Yep.
a little bit. I know there's some
Matt, I
managers
think we
out there.
lost your audio. Am I the one who can't hear him? Said you're unmuted.
Oh, can you guys hear me okay? Thumbs
Yep,
up.
got you now.
Okay. I was just saying that some of our agents, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
Paying money for
Oh
licensing
yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, so you're investing time, energy, and money into growing your business, right? And so you want to make sure that you are um like not just, I don't know how you guys do it, but I don't just plug people in the system and say, "Oh, the cream will rise to the top." I
hmm,
mean, it does take a little bit of talent to be able to build an organization. You have to be engaged with people, right? You have to hold their hands sometimes. And everyone learns this business a little bit differently. You're not going to
right.
find a million, studs out there. Like you're gonna like my top agent, Jeff LeBaron, he's been in this business for 3 years. His first year, I think he wrote like two apps.
Wow.
Two apps. Second year, he wrote like 30 or 40 or 50. I can't remember. And then last year, he became a Diamond Elite producer. It's because I set my expectations so low and so far. What I mean by that is like, not everybody's going to come out and make 299,000 their first full year like I did, right? Very rare people will do that, right? But there's going to be a certain time where people are just going to get sick and tired of being at the bottom of the leaderboard, right? And that's what happened with Jeff. He was like, man, if this guy can do it, why can't I? And I was like, well, because you're not putting the time in, man. I told him the truth. I wasn't mean about it. I just told him the truth. I said, if you want to make, I think he's going to walk across stage in a couple of weeks. He made almost $200,000 last year, his first like
Wow.
full year in this business. And he had very little lead costs. Like I think his profit margins were like 92%. So the reason I tell you all that is like, don't get frustrated with somebody if they're not going through the study course and going through the new agent training as fast as you want them to. Everyone's different, so
Right.
I think I lower my expectations has really helped with my frustration as a manager.
Matt, I love that. And kind of to go back to what you were saying earlier about dialing, is that you have to be able to bounce back really quickly. It's because this is a people skill business and you don't know what's happening on the other line. You don't know what happened to that recruit that day. You don't know what happened to that client you just called. Maybe their mom just got diagnosed with a terrible disease. Something happened to their cat. Something happened to their job. You just never know. So don't take it personally. You just don't know what's going on the other line or with your recruit that day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I had 10 A leads come in over the past couple of days, and I sold, I think, one or two apps off those so far. And I had like four or five people tell me to go fly a kite. And I'm like, I went through the objections. But I realized that each batch of 10 isn't always going to get me four or five apps. Like a batch of 40 is going to get you to where you're closing 30 or 40% of those. So you have to look at this business more over a 4 to 5 week period and look, track your numbers of how many dials, how many appointments, how many closes, because your efforts are going to continue to compound day over day. You're going to continue to get better. And what I would say is, going back to your dreams and goals, you gotta figure out like a schedule for what you do in the morning and what habits you're doing in the morning, right? So there's a couple books out there that I would recommend. One of them is called Eat That Frog, and it really helps with people that procrastinate. I used to procrastinate. I've gotten a lot better with procrastination. So that's a really good book, Eat That Frog. And then there's an audio book that I started listening to. It's called The Miracle Morning. And it really just talks about what you do in the first like hour after you wake up. And for me, like I've already got a lot done today, and it's not even 10 o'clock. I've gone to the gym, did my workout, hung out with my kids, got my kids on the bus. Like I meditated, read for 10 minutes. Like you got to have a schedule, and you got to understand that this business, guys, will test you if you don't have correct habits in place. So personal development is key, is number one in this business. Pick up a book for 10 minutes. I know your dad talks about reading all the time, but it's getting your mind right and your body right, right? Because this
Right.
business is mentally draining. You're not slinging cinder blocks around, right? You're dialing, and that can be mentally draining, right? You're sitting at a desk. So what I tell my agents, like if you're having a bad dial session, go for a 10-minute walk, go for a gratitude walk, right? Realize what you have. Man, there's so many people in this world that have so far less, right? So really understand how grateful you are today to be in the spot that you are. And then once you realize how grateful you are, man, set yourself on fire, because your mind is very powerful.
Matt, I love that. Does anyone have any questions? I know Alvin left a comment to the analogy. Does anyone have any questions? Put them in the chat real quick. If not, we'll jump off for Barry. We'll give it 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on today. It's been a pleasure, and I get excited helping other people. And if I don't know you, I'd love to meet you at conference. Just walk up to me and shake my hand, and I'd love to meet you. Excited for everybody on this call to hit their next promotion.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. Matt, real quick, closing comment. Um, Hit on how important it is for the new person to get to conference. Experienced agents knows, but that have that little fear of, dialing appointments, getting to, the breakout room with you, getting to the breakout room with Deanna and Nicole and all of them with the Winning with Women. And, how important it is for the new agent to get to conference in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we can't force you to go. If you don't see value, it's just like when you're sitting with a customer. If they don't see value in buying that insurance product, like you can't force them into it, right? So if you don't see value in going to the conference, like we're obviously not gonna, you know, talk behind your back, and but you have to realize, guys, that any top agent that like has had success in this business, they've all gone to the conference. They've all plugged in. And you might say, oh, I can do it without conference. Maybe you can. But history shows that most people that say, oh, I'll go to the next one, they just aren't here for the next one because they already quit and they blamed other things or other people. But it all goes back to they're just not willing to plug into the system. And this is a proven system for 40 plus years. Barry's been running the same deal for 45, 47 years. That's the number one way to move your business is get people to events. The number two reason is getting people to is getting them into the system contracted, right? And then it's app count. And then the last thing is the results, which is the premium. So if you're not willing to get to conference, then your premium is going to suffer, and then your bank account is going to suffer. And you might say, well, I don't have the money to get there. Man, I heard a story again a couple weeks ago where Matthew Weiner, my manager, talked about how he got to conference with his wife being 8 months pregnant. They had no money in their checking account, and they were waiting for a deposit of $500 from an insurance company we no longer work with. And finally, that deposit hit. And by him getting to that conference, that changed his whole life. He might not be here. He might not have hired me back in 2019 had he not made that decision to go to conference. And you know what? Anybody in their right mind would have said, you know what, Matt,
Hmm.
it's okay. Don't go to that conference. Yeah, you got a lot of things stacked against you. But in my opinion, like I think getting to conference is the single most important decision that you can make for you and your family over the next 20 to 25 days, however long we've got, 18 days or so. So if you
Mhm.
haven't got your ticket yet, um, I'm not here to sell you to go. I'm here to say if you aren't willing to go to that, that's unfortunate, but it's a testimony to you realizing that. Well, I'll say one other thing. The reason why people don't win in this business, and this is the truth, and I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, the number one reason why people don't win in this business is uh, number one is ego, number two is work ethic. So if you're not willing to come to conference, it could be an ego problem or it could be a work ethic problem. And again, I'm not saying that to be mean to anybody. I'm just telling you all the truth. And if that hurts your feelings, I'm sorry. But that's the truth, guys. And we're not here to make you feel good. We're here to tell you the truth. So get to conference.
Matt, thank you again. Guys, thank you for tuning in this morning. Sorry JK was not available, but we got Barry Clarkson coming up in 5 minutes. You guys have a great rest of your Friday.